All right, we're live for another exciting episode on the inaugural launch of NonProfits Radio, which is a platform we've been passionate about launching for quite some time here at the Pro Business Channel. And we felt like early on we wanted to give back to our mission and what we're doing. So we're excited about, obviously, our brand, what we're doing. 500,000 downloads in our first year as an emerging brand. We're now syndicated on 30 syndicated platforms. We're top 5% in the world, yada, yada. But the idea is, with this audience, why not do something to give back to nonprofits, the community-based? I mean, no offense to these large global entities, but we want to focus on what's happening in our neighborhood, in our backyard, right, and help tell their story. So we took the initiative and launched our own podcast called NonProfits Radio. And so this is the first day in tandem with Giving Tuesday. And having said that, we have a great guest here joining us in the studio. He's the president and CEO of the Atlanta Community Food Bank, Kyle-Waide. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into the day-to-day operations, let's hear a little bit about yourself. What was your background and how did you come into the food bank?
Sure. So not that interesting a story.
Well,
but,
we'll find out. We'll be the judge of that.
I'll just say I'm a public school kid from Mississippi and kind of grew up around a lot of other kids who I played sports with and hung out with. Who came from backgrounds and families who didn't have a lot growing up. And that kind of experience informed a lot about what I saw as major opportunities to help provide better support for kids growing up in our country. I've had a lot of great opportunities myself in life in terms of education and in my career path. I've worked in a variety of nonprofits like Teach for America.
Okay.
And I helped start an organization called Charity Navigator.
Yeah, I saw that on their profile.
Which is a great organization that evaluates the financial health of nonprofits all over the country. I was employee number 2 of that organization.
Wow.
And then I've also had some corporate experience. I've worked with the Home Depot here in Atlanta for about 7 years. But, you know, the food bank was a great opportunity for me to kind of combine an interest in increasing opportunities for low and moderate income families, kind of relating back to that experience as a kid growing up in Mississippi, along with some of the business experience that I picked up at Teach for America and Home Depot, and use it to a really positive impact.
Now, I noticed, Kyle, you've kind of progressed through the food bank because you've been in a couple of positions there over the years.
Yeah, I've been with the food bank now about 6 years. I ran our operational side of the business for about 3 years. And then when our founder, Bill Bowling, retired, I took over for him about 3 years ago.
Right.
Well, now, y'all produce, y'all move or you retransmit or collect and distribute a whole lot of food. So give us some of the background stuff that you've been working on there and what it means to the Georgia community.
14 million pounds, according to our show notes here. Yeah.
Well, that's just of produce, I think.
Right.
The Atlanta Community Food Bank is one of the largest hunger relief organizations in the Southeast. We serve 29 counties across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. In that region, we support a network of about 700 partner organizations.
Wow.
Many of them are nonprofit churches or other community-based organizations. And through that network, this past year, we distributed the equivalent of about 61.5 million meals to 750,000 people. So it's a big enterprise. We engage a lot of volunteers, a lot of donors, a lot of food sourcing partners that connect people in need with the food they need for their families.
Well, it's interesting numbers when I guess if you move that decimal point around a little bit, that means that you provided a whole bunch of Georgia people as much as 100 meals a year over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the average is just a little shy of 100 meals per person in need that we provide.
That is a tremendous gift to some communities as well as some people.
You know, need is really significant in our community. I mean, we're sitting here in a really beautiful, thriving part of not only our region but our nation.
Right.
Just tremendous economic progress that we're making, and many people are benefiting from that.
Right.
There are, however, a lot of people who have not benefited as much and that are continuing to try to make all the ends meet in their lives.
Sure.
And we're there to help them out, you know, as people deal with the ongoing increases in costs around health care and child care and education and transportation and housing.
And just life.
And life. You know, we're there to help people navigate some of that and give them a little bit extra bandwidth and resources to meet all of their family's needs.
Well, if you can just give them an hour of a Sprite, not having to worry about their next meal, and it might be something a little different than they had last hour.
Yeah, that's right. And, I think sometimes people don't always understand who we serve at the food bank.
What is that, some of those misconceptions?
Well, I think when people think of the food bank, they might commonly think of the homeless population, which is an important population that we do serve, but it's a really small fraction of the total people that we serve. So I think the prototypical client might be a household with a single parent and a couple of kids who's working a lower wage kind of hourly job that is just doing everything they can to provide for those kids, but
still
they're kind of on the bubble, right?
The uses exceed their sources, in terms of their budget, and so we're helping them close that gap. We also serve a lot of seniors, folks who are on really limited fixed incomes and who often are having to skip meals to make it through the month. And we serve disabled folks. We serve veterans. We serve a wide variety of folks. And geographically,
talk to us about that.
It's not just in sort of the urban core or out in the far rural communities.
It's everything in between.
Yeah, I mean, the fastest growing area for poverty and food insecurity over the last decade has been in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Really?
Places like Cobb County and Gwinnett County have seen just huge increases in populations in need.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think the recession had a lot to do with it. There have been changes in public housing policy in the urban core that kind of forced some migration of people out into the suburbs, and then as the recession happened, it really kind of trapped people in places where they were stuck without jobs or transportation.
Since 2005 with Katrina, Atlanta's been always joked as people come here during good times and bad times, most of them stay. And so
exactly
people
right.
have chosen Atlanta to make their home and try to restart their careers or their lives or their families.
Yeah. And so just demographically, some of our suburban counties are just much different than they used to be. And so the social safety net that helps to support the needs of the community has not grown as quickly.
Or there's holes and gaps in there, right?
Well, and we're trying to work very quickly to address that. In Gwinnett County, we have more than quadrupled the amount of food we distribute in Gwinnett County in about 6 years.
Wow.
Jeez. So how do you achieve those insurmountable obstacles, in going from that increase in food? I mean, where does that come from? Corporate sponsorship, or what's kind of your business model to make that happen?
Yeah, so we get food from a variety of sources. A lot of it comes from big companies,
right?
Manufacturers and distributors of food. They have excess and waste in their supply chain, and we've become very skillful over the years at kind of finding those gaps in the supply chain and capitalizing on it. Right. So we get a lot of food through that source. We get food from farmers. There's a tremendous amount of produce that's overproduced in our country. Part of that is just the nature of farming.
Yeah, they can't anticipate, the crop.
Yeah, it's just hard to exactly produce what you need, and so there's always going to be surplus. And we've gotten a lot better at handling surplus produce. We've gotten much better at tapping into the excess on the other side of the supply chain with restaurants and cafeterias and event spaces. Right. And then just everything in between, we're just finding ways to get more of that product. We also have increased our sourcing of federal commodities.
Really?
So we get product through the Department of Agriculture.
USDA,
kind of that helps connect people to that food. And then the key to that is being able to move it faster. So we've really invested in our outbound distribution network so that we can get product to where people are as quickly as possible.
So what does that operation look like on a daily basis, from when you receive the food to it's delivered?
Yeah, so we've got about 20 trucks on the road every day that are our own trucks. We have trucks coming into the food bank that are outside carriers that are bringing food to us. We really act as a sort of the central collection point for food donations in the community, and then we can get it out to a distributed network. And so, we're moving about 300,000 pounds of food a day.
That was my next question, yeah, because we talked about the overall numbers, but 300,000.
300,000 pounds a day. If you were to fill up a tractor trailer, right, that's about 40,000 pounds. So it's 7.5 full tractor trailer loads of product a day that we're moving. Now, it's on many smaller trucks and smaller quantities. But that's if you were to line it up, that's the amount of food that we're moving.
Now, you mentioned corporate involvement. Obviously, our middle name is business. Most of our audience are business owners and founders and so forth. What's the play there in terms of corporate? Is it tax incentives or give back, or what's their incentivizes them to take action or be involved?
I think we really learned early in our history that for this to work, we have to provide kind of a win-win business solution for a business partner. We couldn't just come up to the grocery store and say, "Hey, man, you ought to give us food because that's what you ought to do."
Right.
We end up leaving there empty-handed.
Right. It's not a good sales pitch.
No, the good sales pitch is we show up and say, "Hey, you've got excess product that right now you're just kind of throwing in the trash can because you don't know what to do with it. We can solve that inventory problem for you. We can take that really good product that is still good for somebody and redeploy it. It saves you on your waste bill. It saves you on some of your inventory challenges. You get a tax credit, benefit, deduction as part of that donation. And we give you visibility on the inventory that you're donating to
and within
us.
The community. I mean, that's beyond the win-win.
And we give you a brand advantage, too, by being a partner with us.
Their culture. So along that vein, so is one of the misperceptions also this idea of companies that say, we want to raise our hand, we'd like to be involved and donate, but for legal reasons there could be issues or...
absolutely.
How do you answer that question?
I mean, there's a Good Samaritan law that's been passed and is really very protective of companies' involvements with us. Obviously, we go to great lengths to ensure that the food that we distribute won't hurt people. And we have very high standards for ourselves using third-party auditors around food safety and other kind of best practices around food distribution. But that said, the companies that donate to us are kind of inoculated against that kind of liability.
Yeah, because what I know about the Good Samaritan law is that it really is that blanket, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the gist of it is, unless that organization is going out of their way to cause issues with that through that channel, then basically they're covered, right? I
mean, it's a good faith kind of. If you're doing things in good faith and you can demonstrate that, you're going to win. Yeah, you're going to be fine. And I think the law is very protective.
So talk to us about this. Your other partnerships. What's on the horizon, or what's next, or anything new cooking, or and is it in terms of the footprint? You mentioned beyond Metro Atlanta, the suburban areas. Is there a play to other markets or anything? Or
well, you go north. I know that already, and you work statewide through other agencies to help them learn and do better. But
that's right. I mean, we're part of a national network called Feeding America, and there are about 200 food banks across the country. Collectively, we serve every county in the country. And in Georgia, there are about 7 other food banks outside of the Atlanta Community Food Bank that ensure we serve every county in Georgia. At the current time, we're not really looking to expand our geographic footprint. Right. I think there's a lot of growth for us within the 29 counties we serve right now. The way we're going to get to that is certainly how do we expand our sourcing of food and do more of that sourcing. There's a lot of additional food that we're not tapping into yet today. We've got to move it faster and invest in our organizational capacity to handle more food. We have to invest in our distribution network, the partners that get food from us. We're making investments in their capacity. We're finding new partners who can get more food from us and finding ways for those partners to serve more food more frequently to more people. And we're building new partnerships with, in particular, child nutrition has become a big focus for us. And we're partnering with more schools now than we ever have. We're in about 80 schools across Metro Atlanta including some of the exurban counties like Cherokee County, more farther flung counties like Floyd County, where we are distributing food on school sites and are also partnering programmatically with those schools to help kids and families.
Now,
being
in
served
that
by
case,
those
does the
communities.
county ask you to come in and help out with their school system, or how do you get there?
So we often approach school districts or individual schools and say, hey, look, we know that among the many other things you're trying to solve for in your school community, food insecurity is one of those problems. We've got a solution. We can provide resources to you to help solve that solution. I think schools are dealing with a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
We come to them with bandwidth and capacity so that we're not trying to make their job harder. We're trying to solve a problem for them.
And speaking of problems, as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong again, but the one of the premises of there's a certain sector and a larger sector now where those families or their kids, their main meals are happening at school, and when they come to the summer break, the meals aren't there. Right? Do you help augment that?
We have a variety of partnerships around summer feeding that we work on, and it's a really important part of the year for families with kids. It's just that's another 1 to 2 meals a day that those families now have to provide that they were relying upon from the school system. So there are many great providers of summer meals. We partner with our state association, with the Department of Education, with the Department of Early Care and Learning here in Georgia to really shine a spotlight on where kids can access summer meals during the summer to help make that food more accessible.
So a couple more questions. We're going to wrap it up here in a minute, but I definitely want to talk about how people can take action, how they can help you, right? How people can get involved beyond maybe volunteering and from the corporate level, government level, what have you. But before we do that, talk for a minute again about this, what you developed for helping launch that Charity Navigator you mentioned at the top of the show. What does that look like for nonprofits?
So Charity Navigator, it's ironic that I helped start that organization, and now the organization I lead today is evaluated by Charity Navigator. It feels a little
that's odd, yeah,
a little weird. But
so you're a lot of self-talk going on,
yeah. Or I'm mad at my former self.
That's what I'm saying.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
You're still going for A's, though, right?
Yeah. The great news is that the Atlanta Community Food Bank has earned a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator, which is the highest rating. Charity Navigator Awards for 8 consecutive years.
Wow. Congratulations.
And we're one of only 3% of the organizations that they evaluate that have earned a 4-star rating for that many years in a row. So we are in select company. We believe that at the Atlanta Community Food Bank, we are about the best deal in town when it comes to charitable giving. When you donate
Most
to
bang
us,
for the buck.
You can rest assured you're going to get great value out of that investment. For every dollar you donate, that will help us provide up to 4 meals to people in need. And today, Giving Tuesday, when people give to us because of a match from a great partner, Medlytics, a company up in Roswell, they are matching gifts made to us through Giving Tuesday.
Wow.
And in effect, that means that when you give us $1, it's helping us provide up to 8 meals.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
Because they're doubling the value of your contribution. So we're a great investment. We provide great return on investment for a donor. And today, in particular, you get a great return.
Hashtag Giving Tuesday, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so one of the last questions I have in mind is beyond what's next. What about events throughout the year? Because we all know about like Thanksgiving events that take place, across America. But are there any signature events throughout the year that you guys are kind of spearheading? Or
I mean, every day is
good
a great
question. It looks like a good yes or yes. Good question. Yes.
I think we say all the time that every day is a great day at the food bank. There's always a way to get involved. We have volunteer shifts throughout the year. We have events going on throughout the year. In particular, some of the great events include our Hunger Walk, which is a 5K run walk that we do every year.
When does that typically take place?
It'll be in the spring. We're going to announce that publicly here soon, and
No scoop today? You're not giving us a scoop yet?
Not yet. We're almost ready, but not quite. But it's going to be an exciting event at a great location, and it's just a really beloved event. About 13,000 people show up to help us raise $1 million to support hunger relief efforts throughout our community. It involves partnerships with a variety of organizations in the faith community from multiple denominations and religions. So it's a great event to get involved in. You can get involved in our golf tournament. You can get involved in a variety of sort of cooking classes that we make available. As I said, you can volunteer. And the way to plug in is go to acfb.org, our website, and you'll find a way to get involved.
There are multiple ways. Well, so in the process of getting the volunteers and folks, and people can sign up and help in a number of different ways. So, ever how much time they have, they can do everything from do some food assemblage to probably do some PR, or they can just go out and walk 5 miles, right?
There's no shortage of ways to get involved. As a kid, as a parent, as a grandparent, you can find a way to make a difference. The food bank's a portal to make an impact, and so come to us, and we'll help you get engaged.
And you mentioned that beloved experience or event. So talk to us as we're closing things out here about the founder, Bill Bolins, people that don't know the story, the origins, and why he decided to take action on this and create it.
You know, I think it's hard for me to tell Bill's story as well as he can, but Bill was just a guy who really cared about his community. I mean, he's a street preacher is the way he would describe it. And
that's what he was.
And he just found his way to St. Luke's Episcopal Church over on Peachtree Street, kind of in the late 70s, mid-70s, late 70s, and was involved in the soup kitchen there. And he found his calling in life. He was making soup. Right. He was really excited about that. And but that led him to the insight that, hey, there are a lot of churches in town, and more of them would feed people if they had access to food. Right. So if you had somebody that was working full-time on getting the food and increasing access to food, we could feed a lot more folks. And I think Bill was one of several people around the country in that period of time who had a similar insight. And he kind of established the food bank in the basement of St. Luke's Church. Within that first year, they collected and distributed about 15,000 pounds of food. And then now, today,
fast forward,
this year it'll be 75 million pounds of food.
That's insane.
It's just insane. So just like every other great idea, right? Just a little insight just kind of blows up. And
that's
amazing.
That's exponential growth in only 50 years, right?
And taking action on that, right?
Yeah. I mean, 40 years later, here we are. So,
well, yeah, we had the honor, as I mentioned, I think the year or so he was retiring or close to, we had him in our Buckhead studio. It's just his passion, you could hear it and see it, and it's just amazing his story that he did. So, all right, so how would folks take action? What's your best sales pitch to for them to get involved or be involved?
Look, it's easy to get involved. I think the barrier is just knowing kind of where to start and why it's important. I see clients all the time out in the community, people who are getting food from our pantry network,
right?
These are your neighbors. These are our neighbors,
right?
They're moms. I met a lady the other day at a pantry out in Cobb County. She works at a school cafeteria feeding other people's kids, and she needs help feeding her own kids. She had her 2 kids there with her at the pantry. I see seniors, folks who have spent their whole life working, and they've gotten to the sort of end of their time, and they don't have enough resources for themselves now, and they need help getting food. I see kids. I see all sorts of folks,
Veterans,
and they all need our help.
Yeah.
These are not some other people, some other kids. These are our kids, our neighbors, our communities, and we can all make a difference. You can start by going to acfb.org. We will help you get connected with a way to get involved financially or with sweat equity, and you can make a difference. And we all have to do that if we're going to turn this around and end hunger in our community.
Yeah, which is your long-term vision and mission, right?
Well, here we are at # Giving Tuesday again, right?
Yep.
And we had a great show. We want to thank you, Kyle, for being with us today and sharing some more about the Atlanta Community Food Bank with us. And gosh, the breadth and reach that you have, and the pure poundage that you had put out is absolutely astounding. To know that you save a lot of time in the communities, because now the volunteers can spend more time delivering the product than having to create the product. And you're doing a great job in that, Ryan.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Rich Casanova, on behalf of Michael Moore, once again, Kyle, thanks for being on the inaugural day episode of NonProfits Radio.